thank you for joining me. I'm Megan Edwards. I'm the CEO of PETAA, and it's my absolute privilege to be joining those of you from around the country today to share a little bit, I suppose, about what PETAA's got planned for our members throughout 2025. Instead of doing a presentation or a PowerPoint today, I thought what I'd do is, as you can see on the screen, use our website itself to walk you through what we've got coming up so that you can find these bits and pieces yourself as the year unfolds, and you don't always have to carve out half an hour of your precious time in the afternoons to join us for these live webinars. So without further ado, I'm going to hop over onto the member portal, which hopefully you're all very familiar with. And the area we're going to be exploring today is up at the top under your membership, the new and coming soon tab. This is absolutely your key resource. Bookmark this one if you want to be across what we've got coming up and what's just landed as well. We are very aware at PETAA we have a lot of resources on the website. It's not always the easiest to navigate, although we do our best. So this is a great spot to come to if you want to see, as I say, what's new out and what's coming up. So we're already in term one, of course. We're very aware at this point in the year, although everyone's in the classroom now, planning is still very much occurring, particularly for those of you who perhaps your student cohort enrolment is shifting and adjusting and so on, but also, of course, over the coming weeks as you get to know your students and understand all of the joyful differences that exist amongst them. So we've flagged here 3 key resources that we would recommend at the start of the year. So one is our fabulous new resource that we created last year, the Year of Texts. This is effectively our literature spine, as is referred to in other organisations. It's a teaching and learning sequence, 1 per year level across F to 6, that are completely based on quality Australian texts, both fiction, non-fiction, and hybrid books as well in there. We have the 3 different versions, of course. We've got those that are connected to the Australian curriculum, connected to the Victorian curriculum, and connected to the New South Wales curriculum. They also, apart from addressing every single English curriculum outcome for your year level, they also address a whole host of other cross-curriculum learning outcomes as well. So it can be quite a nice time saver there, as we know that obviously in the primary years, you have lots and lots of subjects that you have to make sure are addressed. So if you haven't ever looked at our Year of Text, strongly recommend you check those out. We will be updating those throughout the year as well this year, bringing them all in line with our new format curriculum units that we began at the beginning of 24, the tabular format that will have a rich assessment task, will have the well-sequenced learning intentions, the evidence of student learning, and so on. So by the end of 2025, every Year of Texts will only be comprised of those new format units. And some exciting new books planned for inclusion in those. The next resource is the amazing F to 2 back to school book tasting menu that was developed by our PL curriculum coordinator, Ingrid, who I can see has joined us on the call. Thank you, Ingrid. And this is just fantastic for really sort of laying some groundwork, breaking the ice with your classes in F to 2. A whole host of wonderful ideas to get into these books that still are very much focused on give you nice teaching and learning outcomes, but perhaps some more informal for reflecting sort of the chaos that can sometimes be the start of year. And then launched at the end of last year, and again, this is very much relevant for those of you in the lower years, our amazing authentic texts to support teaching phonics guide. So this was mapped to the phonics progression that was published by the Federal Department of Education's Literacy Hub. And it was just trying to save time for teachers. And I can certainly, along with Ingrid and Michelle, vouch for how much time it took in finding authentic texts that repeatedly demonstrated the letter sound correspondence that was being covered in that week or sessions lesson. So again, if you're teaching the lower years, then we strongly recommend you check that one out, as hopefully it'll save you a lot of time. And then coming next month is our first member pack of the year. We're very excited with this one. So the book in the first member pack is Being Heard, Remixing Critical Literacy for Active Citizenship. So this book is going to offer you practical but research-based strategies for fostering student voice and agency in the primary classroom. And the book does actually have a particular focus on using podcasts to achieve this, hence the title of Being Heard. So especially for those of you, we know year 5 up in Queensland, you have a particular unit on podcasts. So this is an absolute cracker of a text for you guys. The book is written in alignment with the Australian curriculum. It's relevant to multiple year levels, does of course address cross-curriculum literacy, particularly connected to HASS, I have to say. And it features a wealth of classroom tested approaches. It gives you clear guidance on critical and inquiry questions, conceptual definitions, has some really good assessment tools and rubrics, which you can also access online through our website, and some really fantastic examples of classroom activities. And they are really enriched by student voices and work samples. And we're going to be hosting through our website a couple of examples of the student podcasts that were produced during the research project that sits behind this book, and they've been an absolute joy to listen to some of them. So really exciting book coming your way, and paired with a very relevant paper by Helen Harper and our Head of Professional Learning, Michelle Bradley, unpacking instructional practices in the primary classroom. And we know there's often still confusion around definitions of classroom instructional practices. So really looking to provide a sort of grounding paper that can provide clear definitions for staff room discussion around those practices. New curriculum units that we can confirm are coming out this term. So we have made sure we've got something for everyone. And so we've already got a couple up and live. South with the Seabirds for years 5 to 6 is already live on the website, along with Ingenious Insects for Foundation. Both of those books have cross-curriculum links to science, and we've got a really nice, strong grammar focus with South with the Seabirds. So for those of you who are members and got Member Pack 3 at the end of last year with grammar and meaning, nice opportunity there to put some of that into practice with your students in years 5 to 6. We've then got a wonderful hybrid text Unreal that we've got a unit coming out on for years 3 to 4. Beautiful picture book by Freya Blackwood and Curly Saunders. I think its publication means it might be up to CBCA this year. If it is, it's certainly going to come out on the notables list. We've got a new unit coming through on Azaria, so we do have a unit already on that book. But we know it's a very popular text, and we felt it was really relevant to do a new look unit on that in the new format. So we've got that coming through, but rewritten by the original unit writer, Melita Godson, who did such a cracking job on it for us previously back in 2021, I think it was. And then Imminent is a book it's a unit, on the fantastic caution this book contains deadly reptiles for year 5. This book is the latest by the amazing Corey Tutt, and we also, very excitingly, have a webinar confirmed with Corey. I think it's June 4th. It's definitely June. And Corey's going to be speaking to our members on how to use that book in the classroom. So we can't wait for that. It's a brilliant unit. It's been written by our former literacy leader down in Victoria, Karen Rogers. So I've seen the full thing, and it's exactly what you would expect from Karen. Any of you who have used her units before will know she loves a cross-curriculum unit in particular. And this one has connections both to science and to geography. So we've got some amazing, really rich text units coming through for you in this first term of the year. We've also got a couple of very exciting dedicated resource pages. So particularly in New South Wales and Victoria, respectful relationships part of the curriculum we know is being brought up the list in terms of your priorities, because they obviously have decided you don't have enough priorities. And so we're here to help. We've curated the existing resources that PETAA has in relation to that, which is both some units on books that really demonstrate or open up opportunity, I suppose, to talk about respectful relationships. We've got some fantastic webinars as well that touch on this area. And coming next month is a parent's guide to respectful relationships. So we've still come at this, of course, from a PETA angle. So the amazing Ingrid Gilholm, who we apparently never let stop working, is working on that right now. And she's curating texts that address respectful relationships, as I've mentioned with the unit, but will be providing questions for discussion that parents can read these books at home with their children and have conversations about respectful relationships with their kids. With the longer novels, realizing that the parents may not have time to read the full books, we're going to be identifying pages that therefore the parents could at least go and read that page or a couple of pages and then talk about what happens in that with their kids using our specific questions. So trying to ease some of the burden, I suppose, placed on you teachers with respectful relationships, and be able to share the load, shall we say, with the parents at home. And so we will be encouraging you to put that guide up on your own websites as well, encouraging you to share it with all the parents, and as I say, sort of share that burden. Wherever we have teaching units on the books as well, of course, we'll provide you links through to those as well. So you may choose to pair up between what's happening at home and then what's happening in the classroom as well, and extending those conversations beyond respectful relationships into the English and cross-curriculum focused learning outcomes there. Harmony Week may seem like a long way off still at the moment, I'm sure, or I hope, but it'll be here before we know it. And as always, PETA will be here to support you with webinars, with resources, with units of work that underpin the wonderful message that sits behind Harmony Week. So both of those pages are already live, and you can access them through this page right now under what's new and coming soon. So please, if you're thinking ahead to these, then absolutely jump on and see what we've got there. We will, as we add resources, of course, update those pages. We've got a packed schedule of webinars for you. So there's 4 taking place in term 1. Obviously, you're here right now. We have a webinar coming up with the author of one of the units that I mentioned earlier, Kate Simpson, on Unreal. That is an absolute gem of a book. I strongly recommend, if you haven't seen it, to check it out. Each page basically tells you about 5 insane animals, and you have to figure out which one isn't real. And I have to be honest, I got about 50% of them wrong, which was slightly embarrassing. I won't be admitting that to my children, but it's an absolute stunner of a book, and in essence forms as an informative text, but there are so many different ways that you can use it. And yeah, we've got a couple more webinars coming up with our grammar and meaning authors, and Sally Humphrey in particular will be really showing how you can practically apply that book into your classroom teaching. And we have a fantastic webinar with Epping Views on assessment rubrics as well. So another really practical webinar coming up there. All of them, as always, for members, of course, there you can come live, as you've chosen to do today, those of you, or if you're watching this on demand, of course, they will be recorded and shared with you afterwards. We've got some very exciting new professional learning courses as well. Those PL subscription members who are joining us today, who have the school-wide professional learning subscription, of course, these are all included in your membership. And members, standard school or individual members, of course, you always get your 30% discount on courses. I won't go through all of them because we have been busy this term, but a couple. So our literacy block courses we launched a couple of weeks ago, and they have been incredibly popular. And for new teachers and existing teachers alike, particularly those of you who may be implementing or familiarising yourselves with new curriculums, or perhaps have been struggling maybe sometimes to really get either your stage level team or your whole staff team, of course, as well, on the same page with structuring your block. We really recommend doing these, and we are seeing quite a few schools sort of booking on teams of staff to do it together. And then opening next week, we're very excited with our using decodables to support early reading course. This has been in the works for about 4 or 5 months. Any of you who were part of our conference will have seen Simone Bogazelski speak on this topic, but of course she only had 30-40 minutes. This is an amazing deep dive 3-hour course, really setting to rest, I think, some of the myths or the misunderstandings perhaps that might exist around decodables, authentic texts, and then predictable readers briefly as well, and is just packed full of knowledge, sound advice, underpinned, always connected back to the research and the evidence for each. And yeah, it's just a phenomenal course. So yes, I say opening next Tuesday, I highly recommend it. So that's term one, quite busy. But also naturally, as we're in term one, you would expect us to have more to show there, but we certainly don't slow down. Term two, so our member pack for term two, that'll come out at the end of term two. It'll land with all of you in June. So don't worry if we get to May and you haven't received it. It's scheduled to come out in June for those of you who have the memberships that include the packs. Our second book of the year, of course, I'm excited for all three of our books this year. I'm very excited for our second book. So this is an edited book on teaching writers from apprentice to expert. It's co-edited by our former VP of Publications, Mari Quinn, and the amazing Brett Healy. Brett's done quite a few, created quite a few of our writing courses, and which have been very popular. And this, as I say, is an edited book. We've got some amazing guest authors coming through. We've got international writing experts like Deb Myhill, Ross Young and Felicity Ferguson from Writing for Pleasure Centre in the UK. We've got Douglas Fisher and Nancy Frey, who a lot of you will know in terms of assessment, and who happen to be keynotes at our conference in October as well, but more about that later. And we've got some amazing homegrown big names as well. We've got Bev Derowianka, Pauline Jones, Helen Harper, Paul Gardner, Tessa Duffer, and Christine Edwards-Groves. I'm running out of breath. And it's going to cover all components of teaching primary level writing, from assessment, knowledge, through skills and attitudes. It's the whole kit and caboodle. It will be your writing textbook that you'll keep on the shelves, refer back to. And yeah, we are really, really excited to be publishing that in June. And our paper for June, keeping on theme here, we are working with the amazing Noella McKenzie, who is known in quite a few different areas, but certainly handwriting guru. And so we're working with her on a bang up-to-date, evidence-informed paper on teaching and learning handwriting in the primary classroom, which we're very excited to add in. Term two looks a bit bare, I know, for curriculum units. So we have confirmed TRUPCAT. This is the confirmed text for National Simultaneous Storytime. This is going to be a in-depth unit for years 1 to 2, but we're also considering a lighter phonics-focused unit for foundation on this as well. The reason it looks very slimline otherwise is because we are waiting, of course, with bated breath for the CBCA notables list that comes out later in the year. That will inform a number of the remaining unit choices that we make throughout 2025. As with 24, we will no longer be creating in-depth units on all of the shortlisted books, which is 24 that are relevant for us in the primary years. We will be hand selecting the books that are optimal across shortlist and notables list for that kind of in-depth rigor in the classroom. However, we know some of you, particularly our amazing teacher librarian members, were disappointed that we didn't produce materials at all on some of those shortlisted texts. So, and I'm getting ahead of myself here because this will be term 3, but we will be producing a guide that does have teaching and learning activities for all 16 shortlisted books for the CBCA Awards. So hopefully that is music to your ears for the teacher librarians. And yes, we will still be producing our rigorous units on those books that are really worthy of that in-depth exploration in a classroom setting. So keep an eye on this page in particular, because once the notables list comes out, we'll be populating quite a few more curriculum units coming soon over here. We will have our dedicated resources in term 2 for Anzac Day. We'll be producing a new guide for Anzac Day as well, exploring some of the new texts that have come out since our last major update, which was in 2021, where we created 5 new units then. We'll be adding to the resources this year for the first time, as I say, in 4 years. And Refugee Week as well is not something where previously we've actually collated and curated our own resources to support teachers. With everything that's going on around the world at the moment, we felt this one was particularly important this year. to recognise and acknowledge and make sure that we were doing our bit at PETA to support you in exploring Refugee Week in your schools. Both of these pages are live and you can go ahead and explore what's on there now. But as I say, we will be adding to them as the term progresses. So please continue to check back as the weeks go by. And a couple of confirmed early member webinars as well for term 2. I already mentioned the Corey Tutt book. And we have a fantastic PETA Presents webinar led by our very own Ingrid, who I've mentioned a couple of times on this call already, who creates a lot of our units, our guides, and works with our PR subscription schools as well. And this will be a very, very practical webinar with a couple of new resources, I think, as well, that Ingrid's planning on creating for it, on teaching phonics authentically in the classroom. So looking forward to that. We'll also, in June, be holding a webinar on the CBCA shortlist books, where we'll be just talking through each of those in turn, a little bit about why they're amazing books to have been shortlisted, as I'm sure they will be, but also just flagging what really jumps out to us as teaching and learning potential for each of those texts as well. So you don't have to wait till term 3 for the full wealth of units to drop and the guide to come out. Moving on to term 3. So term 3 is the only term this year, as usual, where you don't get a mailed out member pack. But we will have 2 digital resources exclusively for members in this term. Anyway, so the first is going to be a First Nations authentic texts guide to support you through in teaching and learning in NAIDOC week. And the second will be the much talked about by me already, CBCA guide on all of the shortlisted books. Dropping alongside all of those will be, yes, as we've got here, units galore. Some of our CBCA units, some will already be live. We're anticipating that some of the books we already have units on are highly likely to be notables or shortlisted books. We will still publish some during term 2, but a significant chunk of those units will land in term 3, right in time for book week, for you celebrating in school. And we know some schools celebrate a week early, so we always make sure that all of our units are out well in time for that. As mentioned here, we have dedicated resource pages as well for NAIDOC, of course, for book week, and also for science week this week. Hopefully, from what I've been talking about as well, you're all aware we do produce a lot of cross-curriculum resources. Literacy is absolutely not limited just to the English curriculum, and we are very aware of that at PETA. And so we have an incredible amount of resources across books, papers, webinars, courses, and units that very explicitly address cross-curriculum outcomes. And so, yes, for Science Week this week, we're gathering them all together for you. And so you can find them very easily there. But obviously, I know you won't be leaving teaching science to just a Science Week in term 3 anyway. So again, please jump on, check out this page. And you may even be pleasantly surprised by how much we have there to support you. And again, a couple of early webinars. Our head of membership never rests when it comes to scheduling in webinars. So our live book week author talks were incredibly popular last year. They did sell out. They're free for members, but book out. So please make sure that if you want to be streaming these in your school during book week, that you sign up early. We do ask schools, please do try and not have every teacher in every classroom, try and get everyone together for the live streaming in the hall and what have you, so that you only need to have one person logged in. We do have capacity limitations on our software. So it just means then that more people, of course, can benefit from the amazing authors that we lock in. So we've already confirmed the amazing Claire Saxby, who is another keynote speaker at our conference in October. Again, I'll come back to that. But we are very excited to have Claire speaking. We have incredible units of work on her books with Jess Rackleyeft on Tree and Iceberg, of course, both with multiple cross-curriculum links, science definitely, but also geography. And they do have a new one coming out on Volcano. I can't wait to get my grubby little mitts on it. I love their co-produced books. I just think they're incredible across both the educational capacity, but the how lyrical the word choice is. The vocabulary is incredible. And of course, those gorgeous, rich illustrations. So yeah, that's an amazing one for us to have on the schedule. And the next PETAA Presents, delivered by our fantastic Head of Professional Learning, Michelle Bradley, on the Reading Writing Connection ahead of our writing conference in October, and providing some invaluable but also practical advice there. And again, something we're really trying to emphasize as well at the moment, if you're struggling in your classrooms to make the reading writing connections really explicit, PETAA units do that for you. Every single lesson or learning intention, we've divided it into two columns, if you like. One is always exploring the text initially, and the second part is always going to be responding or creating in response to that text. It may not always be writing, of course. It could be drawing, it could be talking through and discussion, it could be presenting. But we always make those connections really clear. So again, hopefully we can help save you some time or stress around the reading writing connection in the classroom. And finally, how am I doing for time? I've got 4 minutes. That's okay, I can do this. Term 4 is when Pack 3 comes out. So the book Confirmed is the third in our best-selling Teaching with Intent series by Bronwyn Parkin and Helen Harper. And this one is focused on understanding grammar and literary devices in mentor texts. In effect, it is Narratives 101. It's going to be explaining the literary resources found in narratives and showing how they are realized or expressed through particular grammatical choices. And this knowledge, of course, is essential for underpinning the explicit teaching that has to happen in order to support purposeful student writing. But it's not easy. So fortunately, Bron and Helen are here to help. This duo have some of the most accessible writing I think we have in the PETAA portfolio of writers. And this is just going to be an absolute gem, and they are packing it with examples from mentor texts. So the permissions side of me is not thrilled, but the reader and membership focus side of me is absolutely overjoyed, because this is just going to be a wonderful book to have on your shelves. The paper, we're actually tossing up between 2 papers at the moment. So once we've decided, we'll update this page and let you know. But that will be, yes, as soon as we know, you'll know, I promise. And then, yes, the star of the show with the conference. So we are finalizing our speakers with the conference. At the moment, Michelle Bradley, our head of PL, has locked in 6 or 7. We do have a dedicated conference website where we can see the speakers. This page will be updated the next week or so as we get photos and bios coming through. Beyond what you can see here, I can confirm we have a few very exciting speakers confirmed. We have Ty Corbett, well known for his Talk for Writing program. That's hot off the press for those of you joining us here today. We also, as I've mentioned, have the amazing Claire Saxby. We also have Katrina Nanastad, the fantastic award-winning author. And we have another award-winning author confirmed, Greg Dries, joining us as well. And quite a few others, but I am mindful of time and I'm down to my last 60 seconds, so I won't be able to run through all of those. We're up in the amazing Gold Coast this year. We're doing a proper destination conference. We've already got about 130 of you joining us up there. Amazing, thank you. We've only got 300 or 350 spots, I think, this year. So we did sell out in New South Wales with 300. So please, if you think it's something you want to come along to, book your tickets sooner rather than later. Now, I am down to the wire, but there was something I wanted to show you, and I skipped over because I wasn't sure if I'd have time. A little sneak peek into the course I said we were very excited to be hosting. I am going to ask membership to send out this link as it's an actual insider view into the course on the using decodables to support early reading. So we will send this out so that I'm not just rushing it through now, and you can see it in your own time and you can engage with it. It's a particularly great opportunity for those of you, and actually thank you, Cassie, you give me the idea, I'll pop it in the chat. If you've never done an online course with PETAA before, this is a really great opportunity at no cost to yourself to get an idea of the software we use, the interactivity options, as well as seeing the actual material of this particular course. Of course, it's a lot of courses, but yes, a great opportunity to explore there. My goodness, there we are. I'm bang on time. I'm going to stop sharing my screen there. And I suppose here we end the sort of formal part of the webinar.